Oh. Hello everybody, and welcome to another Gear Talk every Thursday at 5. Okay, oh my goodness. I don't know about you, last we left off in the Gears of War comics discussion for Hollows, the entire city of Montevato just collapsed on top of itself with Delta on it. Everyone took a bit of a beating. We're still alive. Everyone's still okay at the moment, but oh my god. We're going to continue where we left off, and hopefully everyone's still standing. Yeah, that's an opening that I didn't think I would be doing with having my shirt mostly off, but I figured, you know what, let's add to it because a lot of people get really messed up a little bit in this chapter, especially Barrick. Barrick takes it pretty hard with the damage he sustains. Jace does also, but Barrick takes a bit of a pounding. So we'll pick up right where we left off, and actually the issue number 5 picks up right where we left off. So it's actually really funny. It shows a quaint Montevato, the ghost town that it is, 5 minutes before everything happened, and immediately within 5 minutes the entire city, or at least most of it, we can see some parts are still up, most of it has sunken down right into the hollows. And we actually pick up with Jace and Dom, who are separated from everybody. They actually split up in the last issue, but we see in this one the teams have been broken up again, and with everything collapsing, it is now Dom and Jace that we find, and we actually see everything in black. And as things slowly come to, we see that the panels all form one giant panel, and we see that Jace is trying to have his consciousness return to him. He's hearing in the distance what sounds like Dom, and you see his inner monologue, it sounds like Dom is calling me. What the heck? I mean, it's hard to hear right now what's going on. And then he's like, and then I finally figured out, and we see right down the bottom panel, he has a giant slab of, it looks like brick or concrete or something, that's landed right onto his chest. And we learn later on, it's roughly about 300 pounds is just landed right on top of him. And he can't even speak at the moment. He's able to breathe, but very shallow breaths he's able to get in. And he is in exquisite pain by the look of it. He can only have his inner thoughts, and he's trying to be like, how the heck am I going to flag Dom down? I'm going to die here. And I'm imagining with the face he's making here, that would be the same expression I would make if I too had roughly 300 pounds of debris landing right on my balls. Jace, while he's laying there, starts to have a vivid thought back to when he was a child. He was actually caught in the same situation when he was a kid. And he's having flashbacks to that, and he thinks, is the reason I can't speak right now because this is just like that time? He's having such psychological trauma of reliving all of that, he can't speak. He's lost his ability to talk for a moment because he's thinking about his childhood. And he's going back and forth of this is just like that time, it must be because of that. And then he comes to the realization that no, it is because I have 300 pounds of concrete on top of my chest right now is the reason I cannot talk. And we see an air bubble of him trying to say something, but you see that he cannot have words come out. So he's sitting there in pain, man, this is just as a child, it must be trauma. And it's no, dude, it's because you have weight on your chest, you are unable to speak. You are taking massive damage at the moment, you can die from this. And we leave this to go see what's going on with Marcus and Barrick. And it actually cuts right to Marcus, who is in the middle, I kid you not, after falling down this pit, choking out a wretch that went down with him. Some of them did not make it out. There are some still there. And he's choking it out to death before he's able to get it down on the ground and get a moment to get up, and slams his boot right into it and crushes its head. All the while looking around okay, Barrick, you still alive? How you holding up right now? And you see Barrick. So Jace took a lot of debris on him, and he's taking some hits right now. Barrick looks like he got out of a bar fight against the entire bar. Alright, he looks like he went to the Rusty Nail and took a beating. He has got a blackened eye. Majority of his armor has now been destroyed. Hence, I opened this with half of my shirt off. And he's sitting there over a dead wretch. I'm assuming either from him or from falling on it, because this is just the dead body. It's not the one Marcus killed because its head's still intact. And he's just barely. I'm barely alive right now, but I'm okay. You want to explain to me what the hell just happened? Where Marcus so nonchalantly, seismic activity, the reason they were there. And the only thing Barrick can think of is, the damn COG missions. Oh my god. Where Marcus gets on his comms, he's like, Dom, can you hear me at all? And this is where we cut back over to Jace and Dom. Dom, actually, when we go back to them, has actually found the area that Jace is in right now. He doesn't know exactly where, but he knows that Jace is at least here, or at least he has the idea he's in this area from when the collapse happened. And he's looking around and everything, and Jace is barely able to get a word out. He's able to just, like, get a whisper of, like, Dom, or like something like Dom, where it's very, like, you can't even hear it that much, but Dom at least hears it, and he's like, okay, whoa, Jace, where are you? And you gotta imagine at that moment, hearing someone just wheezing out your name after a city collapses around you, you'd imagine to expect the worst, which Dom goes looking around, he's like pushing through debris and looking around, where he's able to get another, Jace goes, Dom, and he's trying to call out, and you get the flashback now to his childhood again. This exact same situation has played out before, just like he was originally thinking when he thought he was having trauma happening. And during all of this, he was also being dug out of the rubble in his past, and his savior was actually Dr. Wizen, who we meet over earlier on in the story. We met him when they're over at the new, like the Jacinto New Orphanage. And we meet him actually earlier on than this in the timeline during Shadow of Rom when they're over in Alima, and that's where they actually have the original orphanage. So they were able to get them out of there, and they're in Jacinto now. It's the same person. That was his same person that saved him. It wasn't just Jace going to the orphanage and Wizen was a father figure. Wizen himself went and saved him and brought him to the orphanage. We see that Wizen digs him out in his past, and in his current time, we have Dom that actually finds him like, Jace, oh my god, dude, are you alright? I'm gonna get you out of there. And he's able to take and move this out of the way while not crushing Jace, because you would think if you're moving it, it's going to crush the side of your ribs. But I guess it was big enough that when he moved it, it slid off the side of him and he could push it off the rest of the way. And he's able to actually free Jace, where the first thing Jace does is just, get a breath in. Because I would imagine, you know, you're getting short breaths in, but you're going to lose enough oxygen sooner or later. You will probably die or pass out. While Jace is getting his breaths in while they're trying to figure out what happens next, he's kind of looking at Dom like, what the hell just happened? And Dom basically comes up to the idea, and technically this is what happened. In a smaller sense, an earthquake happened and appeared, and that's what sunk them down. Now, we learn later on, and they're going to bring up the idea of it, but we're going to talk about it in a bit. Something else must have caused this. This isn't just an earthquake if it's just city scale, but something would have happened. He's guessing an earthquake. So while they're kind of looking around their surroundings and trying to figure out what happens next, he's like, okay, what's the plan? And Dom's like, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do. Where Jace kind of brings it up like, why don't we just use the Lancers and we just cut our way out of here and get somewhere safe? You have Dom looking around for the Lancer. He's like, well, mine got destroyed. Like, when I fell, mine got destroyed. I can't use it. There's no way I can even fire it. So he looks at Jace like, okay, how about yours? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Where Dom starts looking around for his Lancer. He's like, okay, let's see if we can use this. If it's. And they find it, and he's like, and it's destroyed. It got also crushed within the rubble that came down for Jace's, so his is also not operable at the moment. So while they're trying to look around and see what's going to happen next, they come across some of the wretch bodies that are laid around. And they notice these aren't the ones that they killed. There's something different with them. Their chests have actually been blown open. So something has actually ripped them open and come out. Where they're looking around, and Jace is like, what the hell could have caused that exactly? Where Dom comes in, and Dom actually does know what it probably is. And he says, that was probably caused by a heart leech. My brothers talked about them before, and that sometimes they can burrow into areas, and we might be coming across a heart leech area. And we learned that his brother, we already know this from like the books and everything, that is Carlos. So Carlos knew about heart leeches. So heart leeches are actually creatures that are native to Sera. These are not like biologically created. They're not a part of the Locusts. These are just creatures that exist in the world. They normally live within the hollows, and they normally have the tendency, as we can see with the wretch, and we're going to learn later on, of trying to make their way into the body somehow, whether it's like an open orifice or digging their way in through like a weak spot of the body, like your neck, or like if they, God forbid, your mouth. And they go inside where their main favorite thing to snack on are hearts. So they go in and they look for the heart, and then they devour the heart. After devouring it, they punch their way through the chest. And these creatures are not just like small creatures. They're like yay big. They're like the size of a raccoon, really. And while they're trying to figure out what's going on, Jace comes up, well, that's what we're dealing with. We don't have anything to fight them with. Where we actually have Dom, where he puts a hand on his commando knife, and he's got his snub pistol out, because he still has his snub. That's his sidearm he still had with him. And he says, yes, we may not have our weapons, but we are not completely defenseless. While he's brandishing, he's got his knife ready and his gun. Basically, they're going to try and fight their way out, and if they come across anything, he's at least going to go in like sidearm and knife. We at least got something to fight with. While Delta 2 with Jace and Dom basically are making their way through to try and find Marcus and Barrick, we actually have it where we cut back over, and we get a lot of stuff on this page. We get a lot of stuff involving the situation they're in, comms, the Jackbot that they have, and we also get back to talking about Barrick, because they didn't really finish their story earlier about what's going on with Barrick that Marcus was talking to him about. So we start off actually with, we have Barrick asking, like, hey, did you get the beat on them? Do you know where they are right now? Where Marcus says, like, yeah, I have a general understanding where they are right now, because as we learn in the next couple pages, or at least the next one even, Dom mentions, like, with their armor that they have, cog armor, normally you're able to somewhat track where a soldier is, like the very general idea where they are by their armor. There's at least, like, tracking within the armor where you can tell where a soldier is. So Marcus brings up, like, okay, I have a general idea, but their comms are shot. I have no way of contacting them. We're just going to have to kind of make our way towards them, or at least the general idea of where they are. And while they're doing that, Barrick also says, okay, what's the situation with the Jackbox, Stan, or Jack, or whatever he's called, where Marcus looks over and he says, he's not really going to be much help. We see that it's not destroyed, but it's damaged to the point where it's not inoperable, but it's more like, think of like if you have technology and like, I don't know what the best way to put it is. They have a car. They have, like, you can get your car started, but you can't really drive it at all. That's basically what is up with the Jackbot for Stan. It's basically just immobile. It seems like it can still be operational if they have some time to work on it, but no one in this squad at all is any form of mechanic or technician, so I don't really see that happening. It cuts back to Marcus talking with Barrick, and he says, are you going to tell me, or at least finish telling me the story, or at least the explanation for why you're coughing up your lungs at least, or at least what's going on with that? And we have it back to Barrick, where he's sitting there like, well, there's not really much to tell, but it's not the cigars, it's not the smokes, it's not the cigarette, it's nothing like that. That has nothing to do with it. He goes on to basically tell him, and he's, again, as classic Barrick we've seen throughout the series, he is coughing up this entire time, and he says, like, look, as far as I'm aware, back when we were stationed over in Timgod during the light mass bombing, after that event happened, all of us just started coughing and feeling worse for wear. We didn't really know what was up with it. We just figured it was something that happened in that area, and one of the guys was calling this rust lung. Now, as we all know, rust lung is not a fun thing to have. You basically have lung cancer. And the lung cancer is either very sporadic and can happen in... It's just random, really, that's just it. Like, it can either happen very aggressively throughout the rest of your life, or it can shorten your life. It can be dormant for like 30 years. It can be anything. Rust lung is just a random wild card that's there. The only thing that you really get with rust lung that's really any form of benefit at all is rage. You get a high level of intense rage that can come upon you. When you get like angry, you just go through the roof. Barrick is one of these soldiers that gets this form of rage. We see earlier on in these issues, when he's fighting the Locust, he does get that level of intensity where he's kind of just beating the Locust into submission. Just like, even sometimes he'll do it later on, but he could even do it if he felt like his bare hands. And with that rage, you also get like a heightened level of like adrenaline and like just rage strength. You get like insanely strong for a few moments because of the rust lung. It's that onset rage that lays into you. He talks about like we all just started like getting this, and that's just basically like what happened. And then he pulls out the last cigarette that he has in his pack, and he says, now if you will forgive me, I'm gonna light this up because this is the last smoke in the pack, Sergeant. We bounce back over to Delta 2, Jace, and Dom, where they're continuing to trek forward. They're kind of just meandering their way through, trying to figure out what's next, where Jace asks, like, okay, so what exactly is our plan? Like, what are we doing, Dom? Where Dom says we have two options. The first option we have is that we just stay where we are and we wait for them to find us because of the fact that they can track our armor. We can do that, or the second option that we have on our hands is that we go and try and find them in case they actually need help on their end, which in the inner monologue we kind of get from Jace is kind of like, yeah, in case they need help, we should go and find them. So they actually do decide to start moving forward. While they're going forward and actually trying to find where they're going, you have where Jace asks Dom, like, well, since you know about the heart leeches, how do they attack people? Where Dom says, the hell if I know. That I don't. Like, Carlos told me what they were. He never told me about how they kill someone. They just do it. Now, like we talked about, we know how they fight because later on they have the swarm leeches or the swarm heart leeches that appear in the future, which are kind of like the descendants or the swarmified versions of the heart leeches. So we know how they fight and how they battle, but when it comes to these two, they have no idea. We do. They don't, because we know what we're talking about. We've gone through all this. We've gone through Gears history together, you and I. We know this stuff. But they continue forward, and it gets darker and darker as they move forward, where they start to hear moving, and they don't really know what it is, and they're just like, what the heck is that? Where you actually have, and this is really cool, Dom, and you don't see him use it that often, reaches for his commando knife, and he pulls it up a bit, so he's starting to unhilt it a little, like getting ready to attack. So he just has it up a little bit until something jumps him, and he actually, like, mid-jump of this thing, grabs it by, like, and I don't know how to explain it for its anatomy. I'm even looking at it right now. Its throat. I think throat is the best way to say what this is, or, like, mandibles that are going extremely long. I don't know. He grabs this thing by the throat and goes in with his knife that he was unsheathing and begins to just slice away at it and stab into it. And this is our introduction to the heart leech. So he gets it, and then at that moment, they realize that there are more of them that are coming off the walls, where Dom is like, it came from the walls, you have to aim there. So Dom turns around, and he's got his snub out and starts firing at this point to keep them away. And I don't know what Jace is packing right now. I can't tell what gun this is. It looks like a very odd or backwards loading mechanism for, like, the Gorgon pistol. I can't tell. Whatever it is, it seems like it has a firing rate of a Gorgon at least. So I'm going to assume he has a Gorgon pistol. He must have just found it lying around in the debris. That's my best guess. So they start firing, and they actually get one, and it lights on fire. Okay. He lights one of these things on fire and says, I got it. I think I took care of it, and I think it's dead. You know, like, the situation's fine. We took him out. The fire begins to spread, and you see everything rise, and the entire ceiling, walls, literally everything are nothing but heart leeches. Again, these things are the size of raccoons. So imagine like an ant colony that are the size of raccoons that want to eat your heart. They see it in the distance. Dom looks out and he says, this is not good. And you can imagine the battle begins at this point. They start blowing away left and right at all of these heart leeches that are popping out of them, shooting at everything. The fire is still going off, so that's what's lighting all of this. And they're firing, shooting everything. It is a bloodbath. These things are getting killed, and they're trying to hold off on their own until they start just hear, like, and they hear the Lancer chainsaw. They hear it. And at that point, you see over in the distance, like, a wooden panel or, like, something from the debris that's blocking. A Lancer, like, the Lancer itself, for the blade, for the chainsaw, is coming through and actually starting to saw through, where Jace looks over and it's like, reinforcements have arrived, thank goodness. And you see barreling through Marcus and Barrick, the only two that still have their Lancers at the moment, and they just start firing off, just holding off these things. Dom's only rocking a knife and snub right now. He does not have that much of, like, ammunition. First off, that thing ain't got a big belt on it. It ain't got much for a capacity for ammo on that thing, so he's rocking limited ammo. The knife is only going to do good one at a time. So you have them coming in, finally holding things off, where Dom is just like, backup's here, let's get this done, let's do it. You have all four members of Delta back to back, like in a semicircle, just holding off everybody, and you finally get to the point where it's died down a little bit, and they finally have a moment to talk. As the fire dies down, they actually make their way out of, like, the cavern they were escaping while they're thinking about what's going to be happening next. And you actually see them come across the entire laid out, just like, ruins of Montevade, or at least a portion of it, right in front of them. At that point, you have, like, the inner monologue, once again, of Jace, just like, you know, after all of that, I could have swore I saw Marcus smile, or something like that. You know, because he's thinking about, like, okay, we all made it out of there alive, and it went well, he saved us. But what else do you really do in those situations? You either find it humorous, or you cry, or something, that kind of situation. You know, and I ain't one for crying. And then Barrick actually says out loud, and I love this, because I want to imagine he did it comedically, like, what's the plan, boss man? Where you actually have Marcus trying to figure out the plan now, and he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit tight, and we're going to wait until morning so that evac can get us out of here. Because in the last issue, he did tell Baird and he told Cole, make sure you tell when you get back to Jacinto, we need evac to come get us in the morning. So he says, we're going to wait for evac to come and get us, and while we're waiting, we're going to play it safe, make sure we're not going to be killed off, we're going to deal with any locusts or anything, and just try and stay low-key. While we're here, we're going to try and figure out clues on what exactly happened to the city. Where Jace is kind of just like, well, it was an earthquake, right? You don't think it was one? Where Marcus says, no, this was no way an earthquake at all. If you look at how everything fell in, it's way too cut into a circle. It's like, it's too cut to just be like a random sinking that's just occurred. Like, this was a formatted form of, like, sink that occurred to the city. So this was not just some normal thing. This was something is causing this seismic activity. So we're at least going to try and figure something out until evac comes back. During this, we get the inner monologue for Jace once again, where he's like, I was just about to also ask Marcus if I was able to go and search for Lily's parents, since we'd be waiting things out, And we actually get the little one of Jason, like Marcus, but then you start to hear a rumble occur once again, where Dom is like, another earthquake? And we see that it is not an earthquake. We see it as much worse, actually. It is a corpser. The corpser comes barreling out, by the look of it, like, I'm assuming not behind them, but like near them. I think it's like a little bit across from them. Comes barreling out, where Marty's like, corpser, fall back, get out of here, go. And they're a ways away, and the next, I don't even know how to explain this page. It makes me laugh. I know it's supposed to be taken a little bit seriously, but it's just hilarious, because the corpser comes out, basically just stops, okay? At least how the panel makes it look. It stops. Everyone is, I kid you not, Delta to the left, all of them are just looking at this thing, and it's looking at them, and it's just like a few seconds of waiting, and then just, it slowly starts to back away, okay? And it's funny, because Delta doesn't change their expressions and you get a close-up of Barrick, the closest one to the panel page, and he's just never changes his expression. They're just watching this thing like, oh, it's Delta, oh, Delta, okay, bye, see ya. And just kind of leaves. It's hilarious, okay? Once it's gone, you actually have Jace, the first one to say something, and he's like, why exactly is the corpser leaving? Where Marcus is the only one that actually, like, knows what's going on. I'm assuming probably everyone else does too, except for Jace, but it's funny how they keep staring at the thing. Where Marcus chimes up and he says, corpsers are tunnelers. Which means, and we skip to the final page of the issue, where we see the Beast Riders are approaching from the Locusts, and he says, that means the cavalry is on its way. And we see it start to emerge with the Beast, the Rider, and this is where we end the second to last issue for the Gears of War comic series for Hollows, where we now have it where the Beast Riders have appeared. And this is a kind of a big deal, because the Beast Riders are a very deadly enemy. You have them riding, but these beasts they ride are also extremely, like, aggravated, aggressive. Like, when they don't have their helmets on, which these ones don't, so I don't know exactly how crazy these ones are, but when they have their helmets on, they're more docile, and they're able to be controlled more, but the moment the helmets are off, they start to just kind of run rampant around the place. So, I'm assuming they're sending these ones in because it's like, hey, who's ever still alive, go nuts and kill them. So, that might be what it is. It doesn't matter what the orders are, they're just going after them. So, I can't wait for the final one. It's going to be really good. It is actually my favorite issue from the Hollow series, is the next chapter we have coming up. It is my favorite one. It is also, in my opinion, probably the saddest, but it's also like, it ends it on a very high note, a very good note. You get characters that get their time to shine. It's great. So, that's going to do it for the 5th issue of the Hollows discussion series. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank everyone for making things possible, and thank the patrons for making things possible. When we come back, we're going to make our way through the Hollows one last time before we get to the end of the issue series. I will see you all in the next one. Later!